My wife tried to force me out of our marriage because she thought her affair partner was wealthy until she learned he lied about everything, including his name. My wife of 7 years just informed me she wants a divorce so she can be with someone who can give her the life she deserves. She told me this over dinner at our kitchen table while I was eating leftover pasta. She had this whole speech prepared about how we've grown apart and she needs more than I can provide. I asked what that meant, and she said she's been seeing someone else for 3 months, someone successful, someone who understands her ambitions. She said his name is Alexander Rothschild, and he's a venture capitalist who splits his time between New York and Monaco. I'm Grant. I'm 35. My wife's name is Melissa. She's 33. We met in graduate school. I'm a high school history teacher. She works in marketing for a tech startup. We've had a good life, normal life. We own a modest house in the suburbs. We take one vacation a year. We have a dog named Murphy. I thought we were happy. Apparently, I was the only one who thought that. Melissa spent 20 minutes telling me about Alexander. He drives a Porsche. He has a penthouse in Manhattan. He's taking her to Paris next month. She showed me photos on her phone. There he was, tall guy with silver hair and expensive suits, standing in front of what looked like a private jet. She kept saying, look at what he can offer me. I asked if she loved him. She said love wasn't the point was opportunity. She said she was 33 and refusing to settle for a teacher's salary when she could have so much more. I asked how long she'd been planning to tell me. She said she'd been waiting for the right time. Alexander had asked her to move in with him. She said yes. She wanted me to move out of our house so she could list it and split the equity. She'd already talked to a lawyer. She had divorce papers drawn up. She slid them across the table to me. I just stared at them. She said she hoped I'd be reasonable about this. She didn't want things to get ugly. I asked if Alexander knew she was married. She said of course. He didn't care. He said their connection transcended conventional relationship structures. I almost laughed at that. She got defensive. She said I wouldn't understand because I never aspired to anything beyond my comfortable mediocre existence. I told her to get out. She said it was her house too. I said if she wanted to be with Alexander so badly, she should go stay with him. She said she would. She'd come back tomorrow to get her things. She left. I sat there with divorce papers and cold pasta, trying to figure out what just happened. That was 6 hours ago. I've been sitting in my living room ever since. Murphy keeps putting his head on my knee like he knows something's wrong. Melissa hasn't called or texted. I looked up Alexander Rothschild online. There are a dozen Alexander Rothschilds. None of them appear to be venture capitalists. I found a few LinkedIn profiles. None match the photos she showed me. I searched for venture capital firms with anyone named Rothschild. Nothing. Maybe he's private. Maybe he doesn't have a social media presence. But something feels off about this whole thing. Update, 9 days later. Melissa came back the next day with her friend Jenna. They packed up half her clothes. She took some furniture from the guest room. She took her grandmother's china that we never used. She wouldn't look at me the whole time. Jenna kept giving me these pitying looks when they were loading Melissa's car. I asked Jenna if she'd met Alexander. Jenna said yes, once at a restaurant. She said he seemed nice, very polished. I asked if anything seemed off about him. Jenna looked uncomfortable. She said, Melissa seemed happy, and that's what mattered. I signed the divorce papers 3 days ago. I had a lawyer look at them first. She's asking for half of everything, which is fair since we bought the house together. My lawyer said the process would take a few months minimum. I told Melissa's lawyer I wasn't going to contest anything. I just wanted it done. My lawyer thought I was making a mistake. She said I should fight for a better settlement. I said I didn't have the energy to fight. My principal called me into his office yesterday. Apparently, several people have noticed I've been distracted. I told him what was going on. He was surprisingly understanding. He said take whatever time I needed. I said I'd rather work. Sitting at home just makes me think about everything. He said he got it. His ex-wife left him for a dentist 15 years ago. He said it gets better eventually. I didn't believe him, but I appreciated him trying. I've been going through our finances. Melissa emptied our joint savings account 3 days after she left. She took $18,000. Technically, it was her money too, so there's nothing I could do about it. She also maxed out one of our credit cards, $6,000 in charges from the past 2 weeks. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, a weekend at some luxury hotel in the city. I called the credit card company to remove her as an authorized user. They said I'm still responsible. For the charges, I paid off the card and closed it. My brother called last night. Melissa's sister had called his wife asking what happened. Apparently, Melissa told her family that I'd been emotionally distant for years, and she'd finally found someone who appreciated her. My brother asked if that was true. I said I didn't think so, but maybe I'd missed something. He said Melissa had always been high maintenance. I'd just been too in love to notice. I said maybe he was right. I did more digging on Alexander Rothschild. I found an article about a venture capitalist named Alexander Rothman who matches the physical description. I sent it to Melissa asking if this was him. She responded no, and stopped stalking my boyfriend. I said I wasn't stalking. I was trying to understand who my wife left me for. She said ex-wife. The papers were filed. It was over. She said she'd be coming by Sunday to get the rest of her things, and she'd appreciate it if I wasn't there. I wasn't there on Sunday. I went to my brother's house. When I came back, half the house was empty. She'd taken the couch, the TV, most of the kitchen stuff, the good bed from the master bedroom. She left me with a futon and some camping chairs. She took all the artwork off the walls. She took the coffee maker. She left a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'll send someone for the lawnmower next week." Like the lawnmower was the priority. Update, 4 weeks later. Melissa's sister called me 2 days ago. She sounded panicked. She asked if I'd heard from Melissa. I said no. Not since she cleaned out the house a month ago. Her sister said Melissa had stopped answering her calls. She hadn't shown up to their mom's birthday dinner. Melissa's employer called saying she hadn't shown up to work in 2 weeks. For the first week, Melissa had been texting her boss excuses about being sick and working from home. But then she'd stopped responding entirely. Nobody had actually seen her in person in over 10 days, and now her phone was going straight to voicemail. I tried calling Melissa myself. It went straight to voicemail. I texted her. No response. I called Jenna. She said she hadn't heard from Melissa either. She said the last time they'd actually talked, Melissa had sounded stressed. Asked about what. Jenna said she didn't know. Melissa had cut the conversation short. That was about 10 days ago. Since then, Melissa had only sent a few short text messages. Melissa's sister filed a missing persons report yesterday. The police came to my house asking questions. When was the last time I saw her? Did she have any enemies? Was there any history of mental illness? Did she do drugs? I told them about the divorce, about Alexander. They asked for his contact information. I said I didn't have it. They asked for a last name. I said Rothschild, but I wasn't sure if that was real. They asked what I meant. I explained that I tried to look him up and couldn't find anyone matching his description. The detective got very interested in that. He asked if I had photos. I said Melissa had shown me photos on her phone, but I didn't have copies. He asked if I thought Alexander was using a fake name. I said I didn't know. Maybe the detective asked why I hadn't mentioned this to Melissa. I said I did. She told me to stop stalking her boyfriend. The detective asked if I thought she was in danger. I said I genuinely had no idea. That's when I started getting worried. They found Melissa yesterday. She was at a motel 40 minutes away. She was fine physically, but according to her sister, she was not in good shape mentally. Her sister went to pick her up, called me 3 hours later. She said I needed to hear what happened. Melissa wanted to talk to me. I said I didn't think that was a good idea. Her sister said, please, just listen. Melissa got on the phone. She was crying. She said, Grant, he lied about everything. I met Melissa at a coffee shop this morning. She looked terrible. She'd lost weight. Her eyes were red. She was wearing sweatpants and an old college hoodie. She started talking before I even sat down. Alexander Rothschild wasn't his real name. His real name was Alex Rodriguez. He wasn't a venture capitalist. He was a car salesman from New Jersey. The Porsche was a loaner from the dealership. The penthouse photos were from Airbnb listings. The private jet photo was photoshopped. He'd been running this scam on multiple women for years. Melissa said she'd figured it out 2 weeks ago when she tried to surprise him at his office and found out the address was a UPS store. When she confronted him, he'd admitted everything. He said he'd gotten in too deep. He really did care about her. She said she'd lost it. She'd left him immediately. She'd been too ashamed to tell anyone, so she'd holed up in a motel trying to figure out what to do. She'd burned through all the money from our savings and maxed out her personal credit cards. Paying for the motel and buying things for Alexander over the past few months, she'd stopped going to work because she couldn't face anyone. She said she was sorry. She said she'd made a horrible mistake. She said she wanted to come home. I asked if she was serious. She said she knew she destroyed everything, but maybe we could start over. She said we could go to counseling. She'd do whatever it took. I asked if she still loved me or if she just needed somewhere to go. She said both. She said she'd always loved me. She'd just gotten seduced by the fantasy of a different life. I told her I need to think about it. She grabbed my hand across the table. She said, please don't make her wait too long. She had nowhere else to go. Her credit cards were maxed. She'd lost her job for not showing up. I pulled my hand away. I said I'd call her in a few days. She started crying harder. I left. Final update, 6 months later. I didn't take Melissa back. I called her 3 days after the coffee shop meeting. I told her I was sorry for everything she'd been through, but I couldn't forget how easily she'd thrown away our marriage for someone she barely knew. She begged me to reconsider. I said no. She said I was being cruel. I said I was being honest. I wished her the best, but we were done. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. Melissa's lawyer tried to renegotiate the settlement after everything came out. She argued that Melissa was in a vulnerable position and I should be more generous. My lawyer shut that down immediately. We stuck to the original agreement. Melissa got half the house equity, which came to about $60,000 after we paid off the mortgage. I bought her out and kept the house. Melissa's sister called me a few months back to tell me Melissa moved back in with her parents. She's applying for new positions, but her industry is small, and word got around about what happened. Her sister said Melissa is in therapy now. She's working through why she made the choices she made. I said I was glad she was getting help. Her sister asked if I considered talking to Melissa one more time. I said no. I found out more about Alex Rodriguez from the detective who handled the missing persons case. Turns out he'd scammed at least 6 other women in the past 3 years using variations of the same story. Rich businessman, luxury lifestyle, all fake. He'd use them for money and gifts, then disappear when they got suspicious. The police are building a fraud case against him. Several of his victims are cooperating. Melissa declined to participate. She said she just wanted to move on. My brother helped me furnish the house again. We went to IKEA and bought a new couch, new TV stand, new kitchen table. He said this was a fresh start. I agreed. We got burgers after, and he asked if I was dating anyone. I said, absolutely not. I needed time to process everything before even thinking about that. He said that was smart. His wife said I should join some kind of hobby group to meet people. I said maybe eventually. Murphy's been good through all of this. He sleeps on the bed now. Melissa used to hate that. I don't mind it. My principal checked in on me last month, asked how I was holding up. I said better. He said the offer for time off still stood if I needed it. I said I was okay. Work was helping, actually, keeping me focused on something other than the divorce. I ran into Jenna at the grocery store last month. She apologized for not warning me about Alexander. She said she'd had a weird feeling about him, but Melissa seemed so happy. She didn't want to say anything. I said it wasn't her responsibility to protect me from my wife's choices. She said she felt terrible anyway. She said Melissa had called her asking if they could meet up. Jenna said she'd been avoiding the calls. She didn't know what to say to her. I'm doing okay now. I don't wake up angry anymore. I make coffee. I take Murphy for walks. I go to work. I come home. I grade papers. I watch TV. It's quiet, and that's fine with me. I'm not wondering anymore if my marriage was real or if my wife actually wanted to be there. I signed up for a woodworking class that starts next week. My brother suggested it, said I needed something to do with my hands. I've never tried it before, but it sounds good. I'm also planning a trip to Iceland for winter break. I've always wanted to go there. Melissa never wanted to do cold weather vacations. I'm going to see the northern lights and hike on glaciers and not think about any of this. The house is completely mine now. I repainted the living room last weekend, changed it from beige to dark blue. I put my books back on the shelves. I hung up photos from trips I took before I got married. I'm turning this into my space again, not a space that reminds me of her.